The member for Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Acting Premier. As everyone in this room knows, yesterday my community was rocked by the news that GM is intending to close operations in Oshawa. Oshawa Carriage Works started in Oshawa 140 years ago, became the cornerstone of GM, and GM Canada just celebrated 100 years in Oshawa. I was there. We have a long story of commitment, and this is devastating news. Words cannot express how my community is feeling, but they are feeling, Oshawa didn't build GM. Excuse me, yes it did. Oshawa built GM from the beginning. It was a dream and an idea, and they now can have a global conversation because of their community start. This government talks about wanting to create good jobs. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of them in Oshawa, and once they're gone forever. People of Oshawa are feeling abandoned by their employer. They don't want to feel abandoned by their government. And to find out that the Premier comes in, after dinner time and has a huge meeting with all of the folks, but none of them from Labour. And I would have brought my own chair had I been invited. I was in Oshawa all day and would love to have a conversation with this government. So the conversation that I want, the question I want to know now is, will this government talk to workers? Will this government protect these jobs before it's too late?
The Deputy Premier. Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Thanks, Speaker, and thanks to the Deputy Premier as well. And thanks to the member from Oshawa for the question this morning. I can only imagine how difficult it is for her losing these kinds of jobs that have been there for literally a century in Oshawa. I had the opportunity to speak to the member yesterday morning, along with the member from London West, to update them on how things were proceeding and the messages that we had been getting from both GM Canada and GM Global. I know that the Premier had an opportunity to talk to Labour over the last couple of days with Mr. Dias and Unifor and talk about what this means for the labour force in Oshawa and express to him certainly our displeasure with the decisions that were made by GM, but to also explain that we had asked GM if there was anything we could possibly do to reverse this decision that's part of a global restructuring. This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. Certainly, we've seen that 8 plants across North America and around the world are closing as a result of this. Our commitment is that our team is going to work with folks on the ground in Oshawa, including the member opposite, to ensure we have a positive outcome for the Oshawa region, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to let everyone in my community and in this House know that I'm not going to give up the fight to keep these jobs in Oshawa where they belong. Yesterday was an unbelievably challenging day, and we have many ahead of us. I spent time with the workers who are my friends, they're my neighbours, and we're reeling. We are reeling. Our community, no. I got to get this out. Our community is building fantastic vehicles and wants to continue to do that work and to have those great jobs. On the day, though, that we get the news of a closure on the horizon, it was really tough to not only get that news, but hear the Premier announce that after one conversation with GM Canada that the ship has left the dock. The Premier jumped straight to damage control and skipped right over the year that we have until December 2019, and that is like tapping out before you even get in the ring. We want a Premier and a government that is willing to fight to protect our jobs, not to fold like a cheap suit. And so Oshawa will fight to protect our jobs. We invite the province to stand alongside us. And, Speaker, will this Premier stand with workers and fight to keep good jobs in Ontario and Oshawa?
Minister.
Speaker, thanks for the question, and I certainly do understand how upsetting and disappointing and heartbreaking this is for families right across the Durham region, and the Premier said so yesterday as well. This is such a stressful time for families, especially heading into the Christmas period. We are doing everything that we can as the Government of Ontario to ensure that General Motors continues to have a significant presence in Ontario. They do have the CAMI facility in Ingersoll, they have the engine plant in St. Catharines, the Technology Centre in Markham and in Oshawa. The headquarters is going to remain in Oshawa. We want to ensure that we have that relationship so that we can see further expansion from General Motors, and that the workers at General Motors now One of the lines is shutting down in June. The other two lines are to shut down or have unallocated resources at the end of December. We're doing everything that we can to support those people on the ground and ensure that we can have new jobs and new hope for the people in Oshawa with our plan to make Ontario open for business, Mr. Speaker.